When it comes to street food, the phrase unhygiene, unhealthy, and harmful come to mind. So, this program is made to give awareness to the community about the program is street food safe in Batu Buruk. Street food, as we know, it meets a critical socio-economic purpose by meeting the dietary and nutritional needs of the urban population at a price that is affordable to lower and middle class. Why we choose Batu Buruk? Batu Buruk are annually to be famous for their street food, and people around the world will come and hunt for it. Variety street food can be found at Batu Buruk. According to Mr. Muhammad Khairuddin, Ministry of Health in World Health Organization report, there are major challenges faced during the implementation of safe street food. First, the lack of consumer and food handler knowledge about food safety. Second, food handler attitude towards safe food handling procedure. On that note, it is critical to distinguish between seller and consumer in order to ensure the safety and hygiene of food sold on street food. Based on observation in the process of gathering information, we found several issues on street food. First analysis we found from WHO had identified the prevalence of street food stall as a contributing cause to foodborne disease worldwide. Second analysis in 2015 would report on the estimate of the global burden of foodborne disease presented the first ever estimate of disease burden caused by 31 foodborne agents. For example, bacteria, virus, parasite, toxin, and chemical at a global and regional level. And the third analysis was inadequate sanitation and hawker attitude have been linked to foodborne illness report in Malaysia. As this issue has been around for a long time, it is not impossible for it to happen in the future.
Our target community for the program Does Street Food Safe is in Batu Buruk, Kuala Terengganu. This is because there are a lot of street food stores that serve beverages and food. For the objective of the program, there are two objectives. The first objective is to ensure health, hygiene, and safety standard of street food for all consumers. The second objective is to provide relevant skill to the street vendor community to help them improve the quality of service to the customer. Problem statement 1 is pollution from the air. According to Syria and Elvesta 2019 state that street vendors are exposed to poor air quality and dangerous elements such as dust, gas that will affect the health. It not only affect vendor health, but also the customer health that buy the food from the vendor. This is because the food that the customer buy from the vendor might exposed by the car exhaust from the beach, from the people and others. Cross-contamination could happen because the vendor do not properly close and store their food from dust that could harm the consumer. Any kind of roadside food store can invite variety of food related to illness. There is 4 common pollution from the air. The first is vehicle exhaust, second is dust from vehicle and people movement, third is sand from the beach, and fourth is trash can. Problem statement 2 is food handling, which is hygiene. Street food can be exposed to different danger pollutants like microbes, parasites, and other that make the food harmful to consumer. Hygienic aspect of street food vending are major concern for food control officer. Vending stands are often crude structure, running water, washing facilities, and others. Common problem for street food hygiene. First is no hot water supply. The vendor use cool water for cleaning that cause inefficient cleaning. Second is invasion of insect. For example, the vendor do not close the food item which attract the fly that can lead to health problem like diarrhea. Third is lack of space in cramped environment. The cross-contamination is even present issue. So no matter how difficult the logistical, it is vital to keep away the raw meat from other food during preparation.
Other part is strategy to implement the programs. Firstly, identify the problems. We found 2 issues that happen based on our observations, which are the street food not properly closed and stored, is exposed to pollution from the air like dust, vehicle exhaust, and others. Besides that, the issue of food handling, which some of street food vendors did not use clothes, wearing an apron, improperly hygiene of workers, and secondly is set the objective of the programs. There are 2 objectives of these programs that we set up based on our problems statement issue in the target community. This is to ensure that the program's progress will achieve. It is to set up a strategy for achieving the purpose. The objective of the program is firstly is to ensure health, hygiene and safety standard of street food for all consumers. Second, to provide relevant skill to the street vendor community by helping them improve the quality of service to the customer. Third is set up the plan of the programs. Set up the plan must be determined who needs to do what and when. Once you know what needs to be done to ensure the success of the programs will going well from all aspects. Plans are necessary to provide the appropriate degree of the detail to the appropriate audience. They must be clear and understand. Example, first is who target community, second, who will to do the work, third, what need to do, how to program will be done, and last, when to conduct. Fourth, to use conduct the programs. The method that we use to implementing the programs to target the community is by posting through social media and posting it to the target community in Batu Buruk, Kuala Terengganu. It will reduce the cost and the community can repeat open back the other strategy is implementing the programs. Implementing the programs, planning and preparations is important before developing and implementing programs. As a leader, need to be appointed and the distributions of tasks to the teams to develop the programs need to be made and resources on street food also need to be provided. Team members must have a basic knowledge of food safety and must be familiar with street food conditions. And the last fourth strategy is evaluate the programs. We are evaluate based on the feedback, the view of the community that watch the videos. From that, we can evaluate whether the programs is reach the objectives and also target community got the knowledge from the programs that we conducted. And for example, feedback from target community and also view the community that watch the video. Now we go to the other part is effect to consumer eat street food that affected by pollution from the air. First is it's happen to the customer that buys food that does not properly store and close their food from any dust, exist, car exhaust, people and others. Secondly is but mostly we can see street food vendors at all places, some of them do not close the food, which street food carts are often exposed to dust and vehicular pollutions. And third, it will harm the customer getting foodborne illness and transmissions of disease such as diarrhea, vomiting, nausea, fever, and some others because the food contaminations with many bacteria, the pathogen that comes from the air and the environment. Any kind of bacteria will harm the food and will contaminate the food that will risk to the customer's health. According to Alimi, 2016, environmental pollutions such as airborne compounds in dust exhaust discharge from moving vehicle and industrial engine exhaust can contaminate food in gas on the streets. And the last, dust is full of pathogens and bacteria can be dangerous if lowered to center on food surface.
Effect to the consumer due to improper food handling or hygiene, it can cause food poisoning to consumer. Poor food handling or hygiene will cause consumer to food poisoning such as symptoms like diarrhea, weakness, fever, vomiting and other illness. Usually it happens when a vendor does not focus on cleanliness during handling the food to the consumer. Those bacteria or pathogens can be contaminated with food such as when vendor prepare food with unclean hand before, after and during preparation. Those bacteria will transfer to the foods and are not safe for the consumer to eat. It will occur to death and can be extremely dangerous, besides leading to hospitalizations that affected by food poisoning, so that it is not safe for consumer to eat food that is being contaminated. Avoid uncovered food. Health is considered to be the most important part of the well-being of human beings. As a vendor or seller, customer safety is very important by serving healthy and safe food for customer. The vendor of street food must be covered and sealed from being exposed to any dust, bacteria and some other that affect food is safe. It will be safe if cover all food and customer also feel safe to buy it. Second suggestion was keep the temperature of the food at a safe temperature. Temperature is important to avoid any growth of bacteria and microorganisms. The seller need to make sure cooking and holding temperature are suitable at the safe level to avoid any risk like food poisoning. Besides that, the seller needs to make sure that temperature is not above 5 Celsius and below 63 Celsius, that as a danger zone. It is important to keep food by preventing bacteria from multiplying the foods. The third suggestion is good practice hygiene. It will make more customers become trusted to buy our street foods. The seller need to handle the food with proper utensils, cleaning hand, workstations and equipment. Besides that, the seller should consider before, during and after the process of preparing and serving food to consumer. It will make sure that during food, bacteria, pathogen and any foreign material cannot contaminate and affect the food to consumer.
The next was we will focus on suggestion for customer. First, customer need to check in the surrounding place of street foods, which is street food is one of the most accessible food. However, some of the vendor of street foods not concerned with cleanliness and food safety. It is better if customers check the surrounding the place of street food. Either it is good in terms of cleanliness, a good environment that not close to any pollutions and others. It better chooses the most safe street food to buy and very safe to eat.
And the second suggestion is ensure that the food is fresh produce. It is better if the vendor is adherent to the safe handling procedure and the right cooking process. Customer must ensure that vendors are preparing from base, which from preparing ingredient until cooking process, which we can see the vendor cooking for our foods. From that, customer can identify whether the food handled with safe or not. This is what customer need to ensure before buying the foods from the street foods, besides looking the environments of the stalls. That needs to consumer things before making purchase, such as is the workstation clean and well organized? Next is there any evidence of a food hygiene sticker or near to the stalls? And does the area surrounding the stall appear to be clean? So from these questions, the consumer can think either the street foods are safe or not to we consume.
Next, we go to conclusion. Every street vendor, helper and food handler should receive basic food hygiene and safety training. The technique for preventing food contamination, the risk of foodborne infection, personal hygiene and utensil washing should all be covered in the training. So, if the street food is safe, there is no reason why street food can be consumed as long as certain cleanliness standards are maintained. Next, we go to the benefit program to target community. First, to educate the community handling food with proper produce and promote healthy food to customer. From the program, street food vendor can practice good handling of food with proper equipment utensil. It will more safe for the customer to healthy and avoid any contamination of the food. Second, to ensure consumers are aware of the risk they face in each behavior of ensuring consumers are wise in choosing the food to be purchased at street food. And the third, to ensure that the image and the brand of the street food beyond customer expectation. This is because of the proper hygiene handling when preparing food, also the surrounding. That's all from us. Thank you.